you very much, guys, for being here. So my name's James. I'm going to talk about keeping secrets with quantum mechanics. I also appreciate this is a technical keynote, and I was ordered to have no technical content at all in my talk, so I will try very hard, right? Even though I have quantum mechanics in the title. So, first of all, what do I mean by keeping secrets? What am I talking about? Keeping secrets sounds like a sort of James Bond spy movie type thing, right? But that's not the case today, and I think this should be very much preaching to the choir, I'm sure. But I want to say, like, when we talk about like keeping secrets, we're really talking about confidentiality, privacy, the proper ordering of an information society, right? So it's not about like secrets. It's more just about making sure information is only accessible to the authorized recipients and so on, and making sure this is the case going forward. So how do you do this? How is this done? I think it's fair to say most cryptography is based on mathematics. We use algorithmic security. And algorithmic security is pretty much something like 80% of our infrastructure is based on mathematical complexity, specifically tasks that are easy in one direction and very, very, very difficult in the other direction. But I invite you to wonder about, like, what is a difficult task? What does it mean for a task to be computationally difficult, right? So in order to make that statement, in an even remotely precise way, you have to have some idea of what the other guy's compute capability is, because we're talking about computing, right? And so the problem and the sort of dirty secret or the harsh reality of algorithmic security is that assumptions about the other guy's ability to compute have to be constantly refreshed and updated, and sometimes you get caught and it's a dramatic disruption and it's a disaster. And I think last few days you guys should have picked up on this. We are living through such a upheaval at the moment, right? Quantum computers are a new compute paradigm, and they'll provide us with some spectacular compute capability, but they will also completely trash our legacy crypto systems. So we are in the middle of such a situation. But this talk was about keeping secrets with quantum mechanics. So now I have to somehow explain to you what quantum mechanics has to say about security, about secrecy, and about data integrity. And so we know in quantum mechanics, there are these concepts of entanglement. This is a very famous entangled state. I promise not to explain it. But entanglement is a sticky concept. It's slightly subtle. Entanglement implies the combination of what's called superposition, which is sort of, state ambiguity, let's say, like particles could be in more than one state at the same time, or some combination of states, with correlations. So particles that are in more than one state can be tightly correlated with another particle that's also in more than one state at a time. And at first glance, this might not seem very relevant to security and encryption, and you might also say, well, this sounds pretty far-fetched and ridiculous, right? The last, say, 50 or so years of Bell violation experiments, and the work of this guy, John Bell, and some of the experimentalists who followed after him and have showed us pretty conclusively that these strange entangled states are a reality. They're actually present in our universe. This is more or less beyond dispute now. And this means they're a resource that we can use. We can reach out and make use of these things. But again, I haven't said much about security. So I now need to explain that if you measure a particle, you can make a measurement on a particle, and you can assign the measurement outcome a binary value, like a 1 or a 0, right? So this is drawn behind me. You imagine like a particle of, say, light, like a light particle, a photon, and the photon is projected on a beam splitter. And it goes into one of two paths. It goes left, it goes right, And then I can detect it. So some detector is going to click. Now, we know we're not going to see a superposition of detectors clicking, because then I'd be in a superposition of having seen detectors click, and this would be farcical, right? So what happens is one of the detectors clicks, just one, and I assign that a value. I assign it a 0 or a 1. So I've generated a bit. And because of the way quantum mechanics works, that bit is intrinsically random, inherently random, truly random, right? It is a bit that did not exist in the universe until that moment, So a new bit of information is created. And so there's a kind of intrinsic concept of privacy going on here, right? You have this ability to generate perfect randomness, at least on paper, So that's the first ingredient. And then again, you're going to have to trust me on this a little bit. But it turns out that if I have a pair of entangled particles, I can make that measurement on each of the two particles from the pair, and I can make totally random, perfectly random, intrinsically random bits that are correlated, remember? Because, it should be a tightly correlated state, So this means, and I apologize, this slide looks like it's a tiny bit out of date, but you should imagine that what we have in the middle is a source of pairs of entangled particles, and one particle goes left, and the other particle goes right, and they are both measured. They're projected. The outcome is a 1 or a 0 on the left and a 1 or a 0 on the right. But whatever happens, it's going to be the same on the left and the same on the right. So this is the magic of entanglement. This is the resource, right? We're able to create perfect randomness in a perfectly correlated way. And if we can do this, we can create encryption keys. We can create perfect encryption keys, and encryption keys where the privacy as well as the randomness is guaranteed by quantum mechanical laws. And again, we've heard quite a bit during this conference, this meeting so far, about quantum computing. And so you may be under the impression, you might say, okay, James, that sounds lovely, but isn't entanglement very difficult to work with? And I would say, yeah, this is generally true. Entanglement is fragile, difficult to work with, but we're extremely lucky, right? For communications purposes, if you want to have two entangled photons, you can kind of have this for free. There is a process. It's called spontaneous parametric down conversion. Sorry, it's technical. SPDC. And SPDC is a physical process where one high-energy photon can split, decay, into two lower-energy photons, and these things carry with them some intrinsic measure of entanglement. There is intrinsic entanglement in such a system. And so nowadays we have technologies like domain-engineered crystals. The toolkit, the engineering toolkit for creating these states is extraordinarily sophisticated. So we have absolutely unprecedented control of this. We can make these states however we want. We have total freedom in the design. We can make them extremely robustly. We can make them in a way that is actually practically relevant and you can deploy it. So where this leaves us, I think, is that now, probably for the first time in human development, right, we have the opportunity to not only upgrade our networks, but we can include into our networks something which is truly durable, you know, like a really secure element. It's not going to be a universal upgrade. We're not going to see this kind of entanglement distribution technology everywhere. It's probably not going to connect, for example, your mobile phones. But we can at least build it in somewhere. We can start putting this into our networks. And then the next time you're transacting online, you know, next time you're buying your kids a birthday gift on your favorite web store or something, you can be reassured that maybe not end to end, but somewhere out there, the data is being protected by a really durable, really strong measure that isn't susceptible to these kind of computational advances. And I'd like to think that would be a more comforting future, and that's kind of what we're working for. We're trying to make things better, right? This is the nature of progress. And so I want to leave you just with one final note, which is that I want to emphasize the practicality and the sort of reality of these technologies and where we are today, and how easy they are to set up and how robust they are to deploy. So on your way into this conference, I think all of you will have walked through this corridor, which is just over here. And on this corridor, this is a piece of art which my team and I put together over the last few weeks. And what we do here is we use our home-built, here in Abu Dhabi, our home-built entangled photon source. And we do this, right? We generate ones in one device, sorry, ones and zeros. We generate bits in one device and perfectly correlated bits in the other device. And then we project them on the walls. So what you're seeing when you walk through the corridor is the binary outputs of a projective measurement on an entangled state. So it's an encryption key. It's an encryption key on the left wall, it's an encryption key on the right wall. The astute amongst you will have noticed that there are some errors in the encryption key. We did that because it's visually more interesting, right? So we did this before error correction, let's say. But I want you to, next time you walk through the corridor, look on the walls and think, fine, I'm actually walking through an entangled key, and think of what that means in the maturity of the technology, that I can kind of trivially repurpose it for a stunt like this. And so I think I'll end there. Thank you very much for your attention.